thank all those that are here, the veterans. I'd like to thank Major Childers for giving me this opportunity to be here and speak on this special day. I've always been impressed with the support this school has given to veterans, and as a Daniel grad, I'm very proud of that. It means a lot to me, and I would like to thank the school administration for continuing this on. I'd also like to thank the band over there, Mr. Whitworth. In the day I was in the band, and both of my girls came through the band, and I think you guys sound fantastic, as good as I've ever heard the band sound. I really appreciate it. The 11th day of the 11th month, at the 11th hour, the armistice with Germany was signed in World War I. Over the years, this day was eventually recognized as Veterans Day, and it was a day that was set aside to recognize all veterans who served both in combat and during those times of peace. At the time, World War I was also known as the Great War, the World War, but it was also known as by another name, and it was known as the War to End All Wars. This past July marked the 100th anniversary of the start in Europe of the War to End All Wars. Obviously, 100 years later, we can clearly see that wars did not end. These men and women behind me have served this country both in peacetime and during times of war and conflict. Some that served in earlier wars may have been drafted, others may have volunteered to serve, but in all cases, they served. War is ugly, and despite what you may envision about war, the experience is really unexplainable. And as I heard the names of these veterans that were introduced this morning, we had veterans from every war from Korea through Vietnam, through the Gulf, and Iraq and Afghanistan represented here this morning. But I want to ask you a question this morning, because it is a question that I see people struggling with every day. And that question is this: how do you face the unexplainable in life? You see, you don't have to experience combat to explain or to experience things that you can't explain, that defy explanation. These are events that you experience in life that shake you to your very core. These are events that may make you question yourself and others. And these are events that may seem to make your life start to spiral out of control. None of us have the ability to predict the future or the events we're going to experience. In life, as a student at Daniel, I certainly had my own dreams and my goals for my life. And I recall sitting in assembly, certainly like this, and through my time in school, asking myself these questions. I wonder where I'll be in 5 years or 10 years. I wonder who I'll eventually marry. Will I have kids? And I think these are questions that we all ask ourselves. But how do we predict the rest of our lives when we may have no idea what the future is? While a student here and even later on in ROTC at Clemson preparing for entry in the military, our nation was at a time of peace. And even going into service at that time, I had not envisioned what it would be like to be in places like Iraq or Afghanistan. Now, this may be a little bit unusual this morning, but I want you to understand this morning, because I see the struggles people are going through. And I want you to understand that you can face unexpected life events if you set yourself up now to succeed. Do you realize that based on the average U.S. life expectancy today, that even once you leave Daniel, and if you go to college and graduate at 22 years old, that you still have more than 3/4 of your life still ahead of you. And the things that you are doing now are setting yourself shaping the rest of your life. Now let me tell you a story. This is an old story. It was written many, many years ago. And the story talks about two houses. And these were well-constructed houses. They were similar in appearance. They were built side by side near the water. And from the outside they looked the same. And they served their purpose well. Normal seasons came and passed, and these houses held up well. They held up well through the wind and the rain and the normal events. But one day something different happened. A terrible storm came up. And this storm brought intense rain and wind, and the water began to rise. And as it reached the level of one of the homes, they began to quiver and shake, and suddenly this house collapsed. And as the storm passed, one of the houses was standing and the other was washed away. Now the house that was standing was beaten up a bit. Maybe some shutters were blown off, and rain and the wind had maybe got some of the paint on it. But it was still standing. But there was a difference in these two houses. But it was something that wasn't visible from the outside. The difference was underneath the home. And it was one home, the home that was standing, had footings that were dug deep in solid rock, and it was anchored to that rock. The other home had a shallow foundation, and it was sitting just below the surface. And when the storm came, it had nothing to hold on to, and it was destroyed. When the story was told, it was illustrating our lives. Those houses illustrated our lives. And it's those lives that had a foundation, as the story was told, that were anchored in unchanging rock survived. Those that didn't survive. And the storm in this story represented those life events, those unthinkable, those unexplainable experiences that shake you to your very core. And the question that we're left with today is, how do you survive those kind of life storms? What is your foundation? What is the foundation of your life built upon? Because I want to tell you today, if you have not experienced something like that at some point in your life, you will. It will happen. Today, you may be in one of those kinds of storms. It may be that your parents are going through or have gone through a divorce, or you've experienced the death of a parent or a close friend, maybe even sexual abuse or assault. And what makes it harder is that some of these experiences you've held inside and they have never shared with anyone because of embarrassment or because of shame. So you do what is natural. You do what we do as humans. We put on a smiling face. We pretend that everything is okay in our lives, when down inside you're feeling empty and lost for words. Your grades may be going down. You can't focus. And just pretending that problems are going to go away in life doesn't take them away. Statistically, I will tell you that in a school and an assembly this large, some of you are going through what I just described this morning. So how do you survive the unexplainable? How do you survive these kind of events? One way I will tell you this morning is to realize that life's journey is not intended to be made alone. If you're in a situation like that right now, ask for help. You have some awesome guidance staff here in administration. Officer Daniels is super SRO. They have resources that can help link you to what you need. The second thing that I would submit to you this morning is use this opportunity to start building your own foundation. How do you do that? Many do find support in spiritual areas in church, and I encourage that. I find it a key in my life. But you can also assist to build in other areas of your life. Take advantage of what the school has to offer. I know I was once, as I said, sitting in your place where you're at. Your goal in life may be to get out of here. I understand that. I get it. That thought was also running through my mind. But here's another thought. up for success. Academically, you're sitting in one of the top 5 public high schools in South Carolina out of some 215 high schools. Preparing for the unexpected in life involves taking advantage of life's opportunities, and academics will provide one of those opportunities to you. Character building, responsibility, integrity. Take advantage of the ROTC programs that are offered here. Those are traits that are taught and understood. But you're going to have to push yourself to build these foundations. The arts, band, chorus, these all teach life skills, and these skills will stay with you for the rest of your life, that you will draw on later in life in ways that you may never expect sitting here this morning. Athletics will allow you to learn great life lessons, both in success and also in failure. Adversity can be a great life lesson if we choose to let it be. How you respond, learn from mistakes, and grow will follow you later in life. Let me also say this. You will never personally learn from mistakes if you never accept responsibility. Some of the greatest leaders in history are those who have stepped up and said, I was wrong, I take responsibility, now let's fix it and move on. Athletics also teaches teamwork. If you've ever listened to the speeches of our Medal of Honor recipients, none of them talked about themselves. It was never about them. They were willing to give everything, and many of them did give their lives for that person to their left or right, for the team. It was not about them. That's teamwork, that's sacrifice, but again, it's built on foundations that go back to things that you learn and can learn in this place, if you will. My experiences in combat exposed me to things that forever shaped my life. But it's a choice to let those things shape it or define it. We lost men. We had men that were wounded. We faced situations constantly where death was a distinct possibility. But life experiences leave us with choices. And they are choices that we make. We can choose to grow from these experiences, to learn from these experiences, or we can choose to be a victim of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Many times we do need help and encouragement to move us through these times. But who we are largely depends on how well we have set ourselves up for success. And I challenge you today to think about what I've said. To build your foundation, but to make a concerted and distinct choice to not be a victim of the circumstance that you may be going through and that you may face later on. Many of you may have seen a news clip a few weeks ago on Malcolm Mitchell, and you can pull it up on the internet and view it. He was a wide receiver from the University of Georgia. And if you saw that clip, you saw that he met a lady in a bookstore and started talking about reading in a book club. And he asked to join their book club. But he's a wide receiver from the University of Georgia, and he joined this book club that was made up mostly of 40 to 60-year-old women. When he asked this lady to join, she had no idea who he was, and he didn't bother to tell her. He just wanted to join their book club. He did it to push himself beyond his comfort zone, and beyond his limits. Embarrassment, being made fun of, being called a nerd, those things did not matter. But success toward his goal mattered. Because later in the interview it said when he started college, he could only read at a junior high level. So he pushed himself to read as hard as he had ever pushed himself to succeed on the football field. In the interview, they asked him what he was most proud of in life, and he said he finished the Hunger Games in 2 days. They asked him, well, what about all the touchdowns and receiving yards you had? He said this, and I thought this was amazing. He said, that came natural to me I had to work to read. Life takes work. Life takes hard work. Malcolm Mitchell chose to not be a victim of his circumstance. I would encourage you today to choose to overcome yours today. You see, the high structures you see built today in this country have some of the deepest foundations. Dig deep today. Thank you for the honor of